within a cemetery. I will fight, never weary, I wanna be legendary. Till I'm dead and buried deep within a cemetery. I will fight, never weary, I wanna be legendary.
I'll be last place, that's alright, I don't work at a fast pace.
Alright, and here we have him, Matthew Allan. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Matty,
hey guys.
great to see you, mate.
Great to see you.
One of the nice guys of the AFL.
Thank you.
Everyone knows that.
Thank you.
You know one of the really unique things about your status at Carlton?
Mm-hmm. Tell me.
Your player number.
Yeah.
Do you know what player number it is?
1,000.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, it is a bit unique. Yeah. Actually, on that reminds me. So I went to the big function we had, and that must have been about 7 or 8 years ago. And they presented me with my pin.
Yeah.
Had it on the jacket. Later on that night, my pin's gone. So I think it became a bit of a talking point. I think someone's taken it off.
Someone's pinched it off.
Someone's taken it off. Someone's got the 1,000 pin.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was a bit disappointed with that, but it was a talking point.
If it comes out on eBay,
I really must return that. No, look, I'm surprised you weren't playing number 999 because there's so much about you that revolves around the number 99.
99 was a good year.
Well,
99 being a great year, and
it was.
All sorts of other things, but that's a unique feature that player number 1,000.
I'm proud of that.
Who did you used to follow?
It's Collingwood, believe it or not. When I was a kid, there's so many.
I'm telling you, there's heaps.
Well, you mentioned Ange before.
Ange was a massive.
I think he came to the Carlton under-19s training with a Collingwood jumper on once, which didn't go down too well.
He tells a story where when he was under-19s, he used to go after playing the game. He used to go in the Collingwood cheer squad to watch Collingwood, and then on the Monday he used to train with the boys. You know, but now he absolutely hates them. You know, is that the same with you?
Oh yeah, look, obviously Carlton's where my heart is. Spent a long time there. I got there when I was 15 and left when I was 28. And still have a lot of friends there, more in the back end now because all the guys that I played with have finished. But a lot of fond memories, and Carlton's where my heart is for sure.
Yeah, of course. And did you so you used to naturally always play footy, yeah? Mm-hmm. Always. Basketball? Did you play basketball?
Not basketball, no. No, I was pretty uncoordinated at basketball, believe it or not. But naturally, I sort of went to football and enjoyed it.
The question always, did you ever think you could play AFL? Or, you know, I know that's probably every kid's dream. You know? But did you ever think like, I can play?
I think when I got to about the age of 15 and with my height and the things I was doing at the time, and then I was in the Carlton squads, I think from then I started to dream, and then 16 I played in the under-17 Teal Cup as a bottom age and went to Darwin and things like that. So around that time I started to think, I'm a pretty good chance. You know. In
fact, is it true that as a 16-year-old you came to Carlton in the under-19s team in 1991?
Yeah, I did. Look, there were a lot of injuries that year.
That's a very young age to be joining a football club.
It was, and I was tall and pretty skinny then. And I was coming up against guys like we're talking about Collingwood. Severio Rocker gave me a hot bath at Victoria Park once. So he was a couple of years older and well built.
Big, man.
Yeah, well, if you remember that year, 91, there were serious injuries in the seniors, and it went through. So the reserves go through, and the under-19s go up to the reserves. In actual fact, Ange Christou was captain of the under-19s. He played 19s reserves and seniors in the 1 year.
He did say too. That's
right. To be fair, I was too young to play. In the under-19s, I was pretty raw and skinny, but at that point, with the under-19 competition going out, and
that was the last year. That was
the last year. So they could either have a look at some guys and put them on the senior list, or let them go. So I was lucky enough to play some games and show enough that they put me on the senior list as a bit of a project player, I guess, for the future.
Yeah.
Is that, being a ruckman, it's a tough position, not only because it's a tough position, but there's not many spots. Like you're a midfielder, there's 10 spots, forward.
Careful.
What happened there?
I don't know.
That was you.
Keeping on your toes.
The ruck, mate, there's only like a few
Specialists,
spots, and
yeah.
a lot of times they keep you in the reserves, and you know you're not going to get. You have to wait for someone to get injured or something. So, is that disheartening, or do you ever think like, oh bloody, I have to go somewhere else?
Well, it is a bit. And look, at the time, I mean, Justin Madden was such a champion player, and I was sort of behind him. And there were only 3 on the bench in the mid-90s. So I was emergency for the 95 grand final after playing the first half of the year in the seniors. So the next year I played nearly every game when there were 4 on the bench.
That's right.
But yeah, it was either ruck or maybe a little bit forward or bench.
And then you're competing against sticks.
yeah. So there was all those sort of things. And I guess, well, I was only 20 at the time, but in the mid-90s I thought maybe I do have to go to another club. But, but albeit knowing Justin was in his mid-30s and wasn't going to play forever, there were times when I thought he might. So it became a bit disheartening.
Well, he played in the 95 flag as a 34-year-old.
That's right.
So
he was all Australian.
He played another couple of years and, you know, squeezed a bit of extra juice out of the lemon, so to speak. But that's when you got your first crack at it, didn't you? Your first senior game in 94?
It was 94. Yeah, it was midway through the year, and I was getting a bit disheartened, to be fair, because the last practice game of the year before round 1, I had like 26 possessions playing in the ruck with Justin out. I was one of the highest possession count I'd had. And I thought, geez, I might play round 1. Like I was good enough to play round 1, like on the form that day. And I didn't, and I was emergency, and I had a hot run in the reserves. I was emergency every week for like 10, 12 weeks.
Yes.
And then my form tapered off. And when I least expected it, round 15, Greg Williams pulled out of the side, and I was grabbing my stuff going, I'm going home. There's no way they're going to put me in for Greg. And they did. And I played.
So did you enjoy playing Rover that day?
That's right, But in a big win, I said David left me on the bench till I think halfway through the last quarter, and
I was
in the end I'm thinking I don't even want to go on. I was that nervous, but managed to. My great mate Cooter kicked it along the goal square, marked it in the square, and kicked the goal with my first kick.
Your first kick, that's right. Your first kick in league football.
Yeah, pretty happy memory, and
one of those unique people in that famous club.
Yeah, so
first goal.
Yeah, that was nice. But then dropped again when Greg came back the next week. But had a taste for it then, and played the last 3 home and away games.
Did Parko actually sit you down at any point and say, look, be patient, you'll get your chance, you're showing good signs?
Not that I recall.
Did he keep you at least sort of simmering?
Yeah, no, not that I recall.
No.
Around that time.
Who was your main coach at the time? Was it Barry Mitchell or?
Well, Barry was still playing there.
He was still playing. That's right.
I had Rod Ashman.
Okay.
And Ken Judge
as a reserves coach. That's right. Ken Judge was coaching.
Ken Judge. So we had some great people and coaches around. And then that year, 94, I was lucky enough to play in the final out at Waverley against Geelong, albeit we lost, but as a 19-year-old...
Were you selected in that team, or did you?
I was, yeah.
So it wasn't a last-minute inclusion?
So I played the last 3 home and away games and then got forced out, and then we played Melbourne.
Yes.
And
we lost
got
that
run
final.
over, and then they brought me in for the final against Geelong.
Now, that was an interesting final. I mean, they had those 3 players...
It was.
Couch, Bairstow and Hocking
all
get
the
withdrawn. Did you detect any sort of complacency in the room before the game? Because we've heard a little bit about that from some players saying, I think we got a bit comfortable.
Really, I look at it, and again, it's such a long time ago. But
it was a bit early for you to have a feel for that.
Yeah, I was happy to be playing, of course.
That's right.
But I think going in, we were pretty confident. Like, we had a good side. We had a lot of great players, and the midfield you mentioned, with them out, that's a big out, right?
Of course,
but that's dangerous. Now, looking back at it, that's dangerous to think like that.
To go in. Yeah, it is.
We had a big out of our own who'd already gotten injured in advance of the finals that year. Craig Bradley did not play.
Bradley did, but so he was, of course,
that was a big out for
loss.
us. Yeah.
But
we expected to win, and we
we
lost our second final in a row, and it was all doom and gloom after that.
Yeah, it was disappointing to go out in straight sets as we did in '96 as well, and then won it in '95. So that's footy.
So tell me, all right, let's get into this, right? Now you're the ruckman, so Justin Madden's there. He looks like he's not going anywhere, right? Now it's a team game, but it's also a personal game.
It is, yeah.
What do you?
You mean individual game?
Individual, yeah. Nothing against like Justin, but just like ruckman against ruckman or player against player. Is there a little bit like?
Yeah. Is there a bit of competitiveness?
Well, there is in the ruck piece, because as I said, it's like the wicket keeper for a cricket team at the time, right?
There's only one spot, that's right.
There's only one spot, and I wasn't a natural forward, I was always a natural ruckman. Look, I'd be lying if I wouldn't say I'd be hoping he'd pull a hamstring or something.
All right. I'm glad you said
well, of course, your self-interest, you want to play in the team.
Or not play well for a few weeks.
Yeah, but look, with that said, I had a great relationship with Justin, and he taught me a few tricks that probably helped me later on in my career.
Yeah, that's good.
And in '96, the baton started to change a bit. I started to start more games, and then '97, I pretty much played every game.
I think the writing was on the wall in '96 that he was coming to the end. He got another season. In fact, it was only half a season in the end, because I think you'll find that he retired halfway through, and they brought in halfway through the season because they were able to bring in a player in exchange for someone who's retiring. They brought in Mark Porter.
That's right.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And he would have come in as an understudy to you.
Yes.
In the end.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I got suspended.
He played a really good game.
He had a great first game.
The first game was big.
Funnily enough, I got suspended that week.
Really?
So they had to make a decision. And
do you remember who you whacked?
It was a ruckman from Melbourne, and I got 1 week. So that they had to make the decision with Justin and Mark, and it was a good one for all, probably, and to bring Mark in, who had some great years at Carlton as well. But probably not the great ideal way for Harry to go out, I guess, for such a champion player. But look, he had an amazing career, didn't he?
Well, that's true.
That's some fair.
But I mean, when you think about that, let's just go back a little bit there. You said you came to the club in '91 as a raw 16-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Harry at that stage had just turned 30 and probably hadn't reached his peak yet.
Yeah.
I mean, he was nearing that point in time where he was reaching the peak years of his career. But isn't it amazing how often ruckmen take until age 30 to get to that point?
Yeah, although I was finished at 30 because of other things with injuries. We can get to that later.
True, but a lot of ruckmen don't really mature until their very late 20s and early 30s.
That's right. And look, particularly at that time, I think the game has changed a lot now, where it's probably a little bit different. But there was always the thought process that you're going to mature, into your later 20s, and certainly Justin did, but I didn't think he'd play until he was 35, 36. But as I alluded to, I thought I'd play till my early 30s, 32, 33, but the foot injury sort of stopped me there.
Unexpected,
Do you think that you would have been ready to take that number one ruck mantle in '95 in that premiership year if the opportunity arose? Do you think you were ready even then?
Look, if I was honest with myself, probably not.
Okay.
I mean, I had a great start to the year. That year we played Collingwood. I had a good game, a good 5 or 6 weeks, and I guess as some young players can do, got tired as it went on, and I probably wasn't physically ready in many respects.
Because you were about, what, 20?
I was 20 in 95. 20,
so you're still very young.
I was still probably only 100 kilos. I was going up against the Scott Wines and the Paul Salmons and the Sean Wrens. And week in, week out, I probably wasn't quite ready. And look, in 95, whilst I was disappointed I was emergency all the finals, I could understand it was the right call to have the pinch hit with Claire Manton off the bench. That could just relieve Harry, so they didn't really need me, sadly.
Yes.
But, sadly that medallion eluded me, and in '99, which we'll probably get to, we lost there.
Yeah. How do you feel watching the game, '95 premiership? You're sitting in the stands there. How do you feel?
Oh, it was pretty tough. It was pretty tough. There were a few of us, Tony Lynn, myself, and Brett Heaver, that were all we were
emergencies, basically.
Yeah, we're all emergencies. We had to take our bags to the game. In those days there could be late changes. David kept us on our toes like that.
You're praying that someone runs through the banner and trips over and does a hammy.
Yeah, that's right. But watching them run out, that's all over. Your dream's over. It was difficult. And difficult to be around.
It's bittersweet, isn't it, when you're not part of the team?
I mean, happy for mates and things, and then you go on the footy trip, and coming into the next season, there's still talk about the premiership. It's
and
a bit
you're
of
never really part of it,
even though you get told you are. You just missed out.
I know.
But anyway, look, I was lucky to be around.
Of course.
All that in the mid '90s. It was a good time to be around Carlton and in Carlton.
Now with the ruck, those days there, so tap ruckman, you got to get around the ground. You like a wicket keeper. Do you need that? you have to be more than just a tap ruckman, don't you?
Yeah.
You've got to be able to get around the ground, or you've got to be a defensive ruckman, or maybe a forward ruckman. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, look. Around that time, my game changed as the fitter I got, really. So towards the late 90s, I became a bit of a link player in the team. Like they'd channel the ball through me and would sort of get us moving that way. So I got myself fit enough to play like that type of position, go forward and back and through the mid as needed. Pretty taxing style of game, and hence that's why I think I cracked my foot in the end, just from overuse and overwork. Because I was getting up running, carrying around 106 kilos, running 15 plus Ks a game and jumping, and all it took its toll on my body. But I think it changed as in, I mean, if you look at talking of ruckman, Scott won a Brownlow just sitting a kick behind the play.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't do that even as much as little as 3 or 4 years later. The game, you'd get bypassed. The game changed.
You were actually
quickly.
quite renowned for being a ruckman who didn't do that, didn't sit back behind the play. You, if anything, went forward and started kicking goals.
Some goals, as I said, the game sort of changed. The skill level and the speed of ball movement got better. So just sitting a pure kick behind the play, you'd get bypassed and go over you or in front of you. I mean, I'd float and relieve as when I could, but playing that pure kick behind the play, you couldn't do it as the game changed.
Yeah. And you were a nice accurate kick for goal too, I must say.
Yeah, I had a pretty good record. When I took a shot, it wasn't too.
That was very good.
You kicked some big goals, like long goals.
Goals. Well, a lot of my shots were for probably 40 plus. Yeah.
Well, there were some big ones that are about 55 and 60 out from at Princess Park with the wind behind you.
Yeah, maybe the wind behind.
To the Lygon Street end. But they were the great days. You must have enjoyed playing on Princess Park.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, loved it. I think I've played over 50 senior games on that oval. I was pretty lucky to do that.
It's a shame that.
Yeah, we had a head start really, didn't we? Because I think we went a couple of years there unbeaten. It was, when
it was a bit of a fortress at one stage.
Well, we didn't lose in 95 there for sure. I'm sure 96 and 94 and 97 were the same,
Yeah, I can't remember too many losses.
I don't think there were too many losses from 94 through to 97.
We got belted in 98 by Port, I remember, and a young Treadray kicked 8 in about his third game, so that was a tough one. But on the whole, we've got some really good memories, and the Heatley stand, we'd always try and finish kicking to the old Heatley stand, and it'd just be rocking, if we were up and flying home, and you'd feel the energy. So I would have hated to come and play us back in those days. You're always on the back foot.
It's a shame now. I've said this before. Now, to me, I don't know, it was because I was young, it was magical going to Princess Park, watching the Blues, and now it's kind of like it's watered down a bit. You go down, I love watching it, but it hasn't got that feel, has it? Like they kind of took away that essence of the club there. But anyway, we move on, don't we? We move on.
So 96 was a very good year for the club from a home and away point of view, but disappointingly got smashed in both finals. Yeah. One in Brisbane and one in Perth.
I played in both of those finals. West Coast around that time over there, geez, they were hard to beat. We had
of course,
our foot speed wasn't probably our strength compared to some of the guys they had at that time, and they just ran all over us. We went to Brisbane, and the fear of getting knocked out in straight sets again. Actually, I remember it was down to myself or Mill Hanna to play in that second final. And we didn't know right up until 2 hours before the game. So we're in Brisbane the night before, and we're going, are you playing, am I playing? Didn't know. The next day, the problem there was whoever was missing was going to fly home that night and play in the reserves at Princess Park on the Sunday morning. So I'm thinking, geez, so that's not very appealing either. And luckily I got the nod and I played, and poor old Mill had to go and go back. And,
you know that.
And we
played. This is in 96.
96, we played and lost, of course, and we're out in straight sets again. We went out and flew back early the next morning watching the boys in the reserves, and they lost as well. So the season over all round.
Yes, well, I suppose Mill was getting close to the end. I think he played in 97, but I think that might have been his final year. So, So disappointing to lose in 96 in similar fashion to 94. Again, good home and away season, but lose both finals. And they're crushing results, aren't they? They do take their toll. I mean, people this year are talking about the toll it took on Sydney to lose last year's grand final by over 80 points. Big losses like that in finals, do they psychologically have an impact on the team?
They do, and probably, you know, from 93 to 96 with that team and playing 2 grand finals. And
we got smashed in the 93 grand final.
I mean, with the quality and the list we had, you probably would have hoped for 2 grand finals. It does show how winning grand finals. It does show how hard they are to win. And I guess after 96, it probably did feel like a bit of a transition end of an era. And the next year, you mentioned Mill.
The last year for Stephen Kernahan, Greg Williams,
and,
Mill Hannah,
Bradley?
Not Bradley.
I think Gleeson had just finished. I know Barry Mitchell had finished.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a new generation.
Peter Dean might have even finished.
I think Deanie might have gone on to about 98. I think
98 maybe.
But there was a real flux in the team.
There was definitely I mean, look, a lot of these guys were 34.
Yeah.
Or turned 34 that year. Kernahan, Williams, Hannah, Justin, as we said, he retired halfway through the year. So there was a bit of a clean out there.
And in 97, I think I recognised the opportunity, but also the responsibility. It was sort of incumbent on me, myself. Adrian Whitehead was coming through.
Was that you're becoming almost?
I was just going to ask you that.
The core.
Did you assume the number one ruck mantle at that point? Soon as Justin retired?
Yeah, got myself fit in that pre-season.
Yep.
We won the pre-season cup.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then went on to miss the finals, sadly, by a kick. But,
yes, I remember.
But there are a few of us like Brad Pearce, myself, Adrian Whitehead, and we brought Adrian Hickmott in.
Yes.
Kuda was starting to become a dominant player.
Yep.
We had Ange before he injured. There was a core of us that were looking to
still a good enough core to do something.
Yeah, there were, but I guess a lot of us were in our early 20s, so still developing to a certain extent.
Fully mature,
Yeah, so we did have a few mixed results, and we had some great wins, and we still had Silvani in great form, and Bradley and Ratton and Brown and all these guys. So we had a good team.
Well, I remember at the end of 97, the last game of the year was a game at Princes Park against Richmond.
Yeah.
And if we won the game, we make the finals. If we lose the game, we drop out of the finals.
Yeah, it was a tight
And this is only 2 years after we won a flag. Do you remember what happened?
Yeah, kick up.
We lost the game by 2 points. In the last minute of the game.
We lost tight one.
And I think Kernahan was done. Bradley was on one leg.
Yeah.
It just looked like
fell apart.
We just basically
that was
stalled at the finish line.
Because I think from memory the first half of the game was good, and then we just ran out of steam.
But to me that was almost symbolic of, okay, we really need some renewal now.
Yeah.
We've missed the finals. It's now perfect timing for a lot of change to take place.
Yes.
And in fact, if you ask me, the right time for John Elliott to retire as a president would have been right then and there, and hand it over to someone else. But he kept staying on for a few years yet. But Pagan was still coaching. Do you feel like at that point in time he was still the man to take us forward?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, he was supported.
When did Britton come in? Did he come in that year or the year after?
No, a couple of years before. I think around 96 he came in, started to coach the reserves and become a bit of an influence on the senior team. Yep. We started 98, really poorly.
I remember.
I think we might have even lost the first 8 or 9.
There was a lot of talk about whether they were going to sack the coach and all that sort of stuff.
It was a disaster. And a few of us, I know my first part of the year was poor. There were a few of us just in awful form.
I think we only won 1 out of the first 8 or 9 games.
Well, I think it was about around 9 or 10. We played Brisbane at home and really got our act together. We had a big win, and then really started to storm home and had some great results. And,
that's interesting because you're kind of mirroring what's happening at the moment at Carlton. You know, like we've had a poor first half, even though we won a few games, but this last 5 or 6 weeks what's the turnaround? Like, do you remember? Like, is there one game, or do you just build that confidence?
You turned it around in 98 because you're right. We
in the second half of the year.
I think we only had 1 win in the first 8 or 9, and then all of a sudden we turned around. And we didn't make the finals, but we did turn the season around.
Yeah, we
and that was really the catalyst for what happened in 99.
I think so.
So what does it take for a side to turn things around like that mid-season?
I think there were a lot. I think we weren't fit enough early, and we put some heavy training blocks in. Look, it's a funny thing in footy when people say such and such is a confidence player. Well, I think everyone is, right? If you think you're going to go out there and lose, well, what's going to happen? Yeah. So a big result at home, realising, you know, we've got a good team. We're a good unit. We can beat most teams when we're up and about. We're fit enough now. I think that was a big part of it in '98. And then we had, again, the younger guys like and I failed to mention the Scott Camporellis, Aaron Hamills, and then Lance Whitnall burst on the scene.
Yes, that's right.
So we had all these guys and they were fit and hungry and young, and I think that's when the second half of that season we started to storm over the top.
You start believing in each other, start trusting each other more. So I find like at the moment I'm looking at the side, all of a sudden they were getting sucked into the contest and they weren't like, and now all of a sudden, you know, there's people on the outside, so they start trusting each other a little bit more.
100%. Yeah, trust is big, and it often takes a while to play with players. I remember my first couple of years, even at training, I mean, the star players would barely kick it to you. They'd see it and then give it to their mate. They want trust and they want the ball used properly. So I understand you've got to earn your stripes in anything.
That's interesting.
But the cohesion in the team and as you say, knowing when to stay with the man and knowing he's got my back and knowing you start getting an understanding of what's going to unfold around you just from time spent playing together.
Before we move on to '99, I've got a quick question for you about captains. Now, you played under Stephen Kernahan, and we've all heard how fantastic a captain he was. When he retired in '97, Bradley took over, I think, for the next 5 years as captain. What were the differences there? Was there much of a difference, or was it a smooth transition? Was it a natural progression from Kernahan to Bradley?
I think it was.
How did they differ in their captaincy styles?
Yeah, well, Sticks with his sheer presence and his booming voice, and that was big. Like even now, if people don't know who he is, he walks in a room, he's got that presence
100%,
about him.
Absolutely.
Craig, much more understated, laconic, but don't be mistaken for his drive and his competitive nature. When it's go time, Craig was as fired up as anyone. And, you know, equally, I mean, most weeks Craig's in the top four on the ground type thing. So he both led by example, to be fair. But I guess just the way they went about it, very different.
Were they both vocal in that sense? When they got the boys, you know,
definitely,
together?
But I think on the initial approach, just very different styles, just more of a booming follow me guys, and Craig did it very differently, but equally we're right behind. I was pretty fortunate to play under both of those guys.
Too, absolutely. Like stars of competition,
So let's talk about '99 then. The 1 year that you really, you know, thrived and performed brilliantly in a year that not only saw you win the best and fairest, but you made All-Australian team, Victorian team. You almost won the Brownlow medal. You came third in the Brownlow. Did at any stage you think, hang on, I'm a chance here?
Well, I did actually at one point. I guess going into that year, I was as fit as I had ever been. But I'd come off around 22, the last year in '98, I tore one of my posterior cruciates in the first quarter, and I missed the rest of the year. It took a fair while to come back from that, all through the pre-season. So my pre-season form was pretty patchy. And then once I got into the first part of the year, I got votes in the Brownlow in round 2 against Collingwood. And I thought going in, because of course you're priced as one of the favourites in the papers and things, I thought, geez, if I always knew Crawford had such a big year. I thought if I'm, you know, thereabouts with Crawford halfway, I might be a chance to win or tie with him. And sure enough, halfway through the year, I'm either equal or one behind. And I thought, geez, you know.
Well, you would have been there, wouldn't you, at the Brownlow?
Yeah, well, it was in Sydney. Yeah, we flew up. Sydney? Yeah, we flew up. Okay. So myself and Justin Murphy were the only two players because it's grand final week. I was required to go, and then Murph went with me. But yeah, halfway through, I thought, geez, because my second half of the year was twice as good as my first half. I probably missed a couple of votes in games I might have. And it's funny, in some ways, I thought, looking on reflection, I might finish second because round 22, I had a big game if you looking back against Richmond, but we only just lost by few points, but I remember, and this is the fairest piece, I remember absolutely scorching one of the umpires right at the end because I gave away a 50 metre penalty. And if you check on the results, I think it was Ottens might have got 1 or 2 or one of these, and he was my opponent. Yeah, it was an interesting one.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you reckon he might have shoved it up you by giving your opponent a vote?
No, I don't know. Yeah, I thought that was that fair, the fairest piece, which I understand. I mean, a lot of people talk about Greg's missing a Brownlow.
Well, Greg Williams won 2 Brownlows and probably could have won a third.
Yeah, that's right. But that game, I know I had a great game, and I think I got all the votes in the papers, and I didn't get a vote Brownlow night, and I thought I might have got at least, well, if not 1, maybe 2. In a losing team, you don't expect the 3 very often. But I thought my game was good enough that night to get the votes. But right at the end, I wasn't very nice to that.
I reckon there's something in that, mate. I'm telling you, there's something.
Well, I think you'll find, I could be wrong here, but I think you'll find that last game of 99, as in the last home and away game of 99, where you thought you might have been a chance for some votes.
Yeah.
I think that was your 99th game of football. Because I think you played your 100 in the qualifying final the week after.
Yeah. No, it was, and it was a bit wet.
So I told you the number 99 was big in your life.
99,
What is it about 99?
What is about 99?
You sure you didn't kick 99 goals like Beth?
No, that's right.
Totally not.
But I remember that was Brendan Gale gave me a great corky in my left leg, and my leg actually, and it was early in the game, and I played the game, and my leg ballooned, so it was nearly double the other size after the game. It was a shocking corky. To the point I probably...
Some players go out of their way to deliberately do that.
Well, no, this one was fair. No. It's in the ruck. I just didn't position my body right. And look, to be fair, if it was a home and away game, I probably would have missed that game. I was shocking all week.
Yep.
Then we flew to Brisbane to play the final, and I really shouldn't have played. I had a poor game. We lost.
That was your 100th.
That was my 100th.
Yeah.
I didn't play well in my 100th, sadly. And we got belted in the final.
Yeah.
And
we played West Coast the week after.
We played West Coast at home, which was a bit of an anomaly in the draw. We probably shouldn't have.
We had to have that one MCG game.
That's right.
The rules about the MCG has to host one final. That's the one.
Which we were happy about, and we got that up. We got that one.
That's what should have been your 100th game.
It should have been.
You should have taken a rest the week before.
Yeah, and you know what? I reckon at the time I was thinking that. I just wasn't fit, and I shouldn't have played. But
is that your call? The doctors have no way of knowing whether you're right or not. Is it really up to you to tell them?
Yeah, but I think at the position I had in the team at the time,
you felt the
big
responsibility.
Final. If we lost, there was a chance we'd be out for the season.
Really?
Well, I think Sydney would have had to have beaten...
it ends up being the highest loser and whatever stays in.
Essendon, which they probably weren't going to, and then they would have knocked us out. Yeah. But I guess we want to talk about the night prelim.
Yeah, we do. So after the West Coast game, where we won handsomely, we're up against the Bombers. Now, they're all touted as being red-hot, unbeatable favourites, and we've gone in there, everyone's gone, Carlton's no chance to win this final. How did you guys approach the game?
I think,
what was the feeling in the rooms before?
I think we were sceptical on getting a result. I mean, when we were hearing all Essendon supporters were lining up already to get grand final tickets. And
can I tell you something? They'd already booked the room at Crown for their grand final dinner.
They'd already done all that. Yeah, so
that's how cocky they were. They were cocky.
I'll tell you a little story. After that preliminary, we know the result. Because outside the ground, they had the chairs already lined up. Because they would put them there in order, and I was like, I had a good day that day.
You mean to line up the final tickets?
Yeah, grand final before the grand final, they had them all lined up there, and I was walking past, and I was I was throwing all the chairs out and saying, "Go home," so. I had a good day that day.
No, it was a great day. But your memories of the final, tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I remember going in at that stage of the year. I personally was extremely. I was exhausted. I played every practice game. I played every home and away. I played every final. I really was going into the whole final series. To be fair, but that one, I guess thinking, geez, we're going to have to play out of our skin to beat Essendon, and we got rolling, and
we started well.
We started well. We got into it. We had a real fire in it. There was a pretty hard fought game, and then
good move to put Glenn Manton up forward and take him by surprise and kick the first goal.
And then look with what Anthony Cooter did in the last quarter. I mean that sort of got us over.
Still could be one of the
greatest.
But you still played a very good game against Somerville.
I was pretty pleased with my own output. wasn't one of my best games, but serviceable. I was pretty pleased in a game like that, and to get up by a point.
Did you kick a goal?
I kicked one.
I thought so. Yeah.
And yeah, the result. I mean,
every goal's important in a game like that.
And
so just quickly, we have a big first half. I think we're leading at half time.
Yeah, we are.
So you must be going into the room thinking, right,
good chance.
Yeah, we just got to keep going.
Yeah.
Then they have a big third quarter, and I think they went in with 15 points ahead all of a sudden. So you go in at three-quarter time.
Probably a bit despondent, thinking, geez, they're going to rock. Because bearing in mind, they had some unbelievable players.
Yes. So do you remember what's said in the huddle?
I think I think Steve Silvani was pretty prominent at that time in the huddle, and with his skill and with his leadership as well to a different extent from the others.
He was pretty vocal, apparently.
Yeah, so I do remember that. And look, no one would have thought we'd unleash Cooter and he'd do what he did, but thank God he did.
Yeah,
it would have been a different story.
Well, thank God that Parko saw fit to put him in the middle, because Cooter was telling us in an interview we did with him that he was just itching to go in the middle, but he was too frightened to sort of demand it of the coach and say, come on, put me in there. He was just waiting for him to be given the green light. But thankfully Parko thought, I'm going to give that a try.
Yeah, so look, and that was a great result. Then onto the grand final. It was onto the grand final, and to be fair, probably going in, we thought we had played our grand final and thought.
So you thought that?
Well, I think there was a feeling.
Because we dare to dream. We thought that.
Yeah. So, look, you dare to dream, but you're coming up against the Kangaroos that were, much better team.
You talked about Craig Bradley's competitiveness. Yeah. Now, he was the captain. He was pretty devastated after that grand final. I'm not sure how many other players were, but I think he would have, had the dream of holding up a premiership cup as a captain too.
Definitely.
And I remember that night at the grand final dinner. It was at Crown. He looked very, very despondent.
And look,
I'm not sure about the others. I think you're right. There was a feeling of oh, gee, we did well to get there, but I didn't see the devastation, the usual sort of, depressed looks on players' faces.
It's a tough one. I guess in a lot of ways you don't know how to feel when a season comes to the end, good, bad, or indifferent. It's a bit of an unusual feeling because it's the work you put in, and it comes to an end, and that one was, a bad result.
But that was your only chance at a premiership.
Yeah, so
you know what I mean? Like you probably thought at the time, I'll get another chance.
Well, I don't know if I thought it was like that at the time. I can't recall. But look, knowing the pain of '95, to get an opportunity and not do it. Yeah. And again, just play an average game, and after what I know I could produce.
In the '99 grand final.
just didn't quite hit my high notes.
You were up
there.
against was it Capuano?
Capuano for a bit, John Longmire for most of it.
Oh really? John Longmire?
Funnily enough.
Coach of Sydney side. I didn't realise he was a ruckman. I thought he was more of a full forward. Yeah,
well I think Capuano hurt his knee, and then Longmire, and maybe did McKernan a bit.
McKernan's the other one.
That game, sadly, we didn't have an option. McKernan played forward and big, and we had to put Cooter back there. But it would have been nice to have Cooter on the ball like the previous.
Carey, Cooter. They have a lot of weapons, didn't they?
Yeah. So look, disappointing end to what was a great year. But remembering we only finished 6th that year.
That's true.
And so to get into the grand final,
it was a good achievement.
And to have such a memorable game in the prelim that still gets talked about is something a big takeaway from that season.
It's great. But it's sad that it's like it's remembered for that. Like it's a great. Everyone it could be one of the greatest games ever played that Vernon. But unfortunately, it's not that last one. Yeah. You know, when you're going into that grand final, you're in the rooms. How do you feel? Are you a nervous person or?
No, I think. Look, luckily playing at Carlton and then I went on to Essendon. Like these clubs with big games. I played in some huge games, you do, as you get more experience as a player, you do get used to it.
That's it.
Whilst you're waking up grand final day knowing it is a bit of a different game.
Sleep?
Yeah, I was always really good with all that, and I think there's a nervous energy I got. But
do you dream about it?
No, I don't think.
Are you a dreamer of games?
No, I don't. I can't recall. No, I'm not sure.
What's it feel like to run through you finally run out of the race, and there's the massive banner, and there's balloons, and there's 100,000 people cheering. What's that feel like?
Yeah, it's a great feeling. Yeah, great feeling. And grand final day when there's 100,000. Funnily enough, we'll get to the Essendon piece, but I played in an Anzac Day game as well. And see, the grand finals, it's got a lot of impartial supporters from all different teams, so it can be a bit of a mixed feeling. But when I was at Essendon, the Essendon and Collingwood own 100,000 there is pretty unique. Yeah. But with Carlton, we're lucky. The big four were really the big four: Richmond, Collingwood, Carlton, Essendon. So played in big fixtures all the time. So by the time I got 50, 60, 70 games under my belt, it became a thing you do. Yeah. I mean, luckily,
Can you believe that you were playing in front of 100,000 people? Well, cheering you on, I still find that amazing.
Well, it's pretty amazing considering, in Victoria, there's, only 3.5 million people, whatever it is, and there's 100,000 they go and jam in there to watch the footy.
We're crazy.
Yeah,
it'd be more if there were more tickets available.
Well, Friday night there'll be at least 85,000 there. Collingwood run there. So it was a great experience, and then we get to 2000, which we had an unbelievable team, an unbelievable run.
Yeah, I guess that's the next logical thing to go into 2000, the new millennium, and I guess at this stage Brits has pretty much taken over the match day coaching. Yep. Parko's more of a spokesperson and deal with the media and the corporates and all the rest of it, but that was his last official year as senior coach. We had a great year again.
Yeah.
We're
we did.
Again, I think we had a stretch of about 13 games in a row that we won.
Yep.
Even though Essendon had about 19 in a row.
I think it was a great year. Yeah. It was almost unexpected. Like, I remember at the time thinking, wow, we're better than I thought we were,
Yeah, well, we had some real prime movers coming into there, and Kudafidis became the best player in the comp that year.
He did,
And then Scott Camporelli.
He didn't get injured, I reckon he might have won the Brownlow himself.
Maybe. And then Camporelli started to hit elite conversations. And then we had Lance kicked a heap of goals. And
Ratton was in his prime.
Yeah, so
Hamill.
So we had all these guys. We still had Silvani playing well and Bradley and all these guys. So
we had a good nucleus of senior players. Fraser Brown.
We did.
Was another one. I suppose his best year was 98, but he was still very valuable through those years.
Yeah, so we got on a run and we became hard to beat. That year. So look, it was disappointing. We should have really played off in the grand final that year.
It was at Essendon when you played
Essendon got us in the prelim this time.
They did.
Well, in the prelim, but before that, in the game that
it was against Melbourne. We should have beaten Melbourne, to be fair.
You mean the first final?
Oh yeah.
And a few of us just weren't at our best. I came off a 6-week knee thing.
Kuda was out.
Kuda was out.
Bradley was out.
Yeah, maybe.
You're referring to the Carlton Essendon game about 2 rounds before the end of the home and away.
That's when Kuda got injured.
That's right, and so did Bradley.
And it all kind of just
fell away.
Yeah,
the injuries at the wrong time of the year.
Yeah, so we
really
lost to Melbourne, and then we played Brisbane at the MCG and had a huge win.
But that was another game where we lost Silvani. He tore his hamstring right off the bone.
He did, yeah. And then we take on Essendon and probably knowing it's going to be tough. They had heard back that year.
When you think about it, Kudafidis out, Silvani out, Bradley out.
It's tough.
Too hard to replace those guys.
Yeah, tough. But another prelim was, a pretty
we were competitive. We didn't get smashed in the prelim. We were competitive. But you could always tell that they had the better of us. So they went on to exact revenge. I guess they were hell bent on revenge in 2000.
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone really would have stopped them other than ourselves if we were full strength. Melbourne didn't even give a yelp in the grand final. So you also started to experience some frustrating years at that stage.
I did.
2001, 2 and 3 were probably your most frustrating ones, weren't they? I think you only played, 8 games, 4 games,
something
6
like
games,
something like that. Yeah.
Through those 3 years. So not even playing half the available games. It must have been pretty frustrating.
Yeah. Well,
cut short your career, really,
well,
those
it did.
foot injuries?
Yeah, it did. Well, after 99 and then going into 2000, I had a reasonable year, but I did the other posterior cruciate, so I missed 6. So I got the pre-season, I was so driven. I thought I want to get back to 99 and even better than I have been. So I lived in North Carlton. I'd go on a Sunday and I'd run the park as hard as I could. And I'd know no one else is doing this stuff. Right. So I became relentless in my training. Yep. And I remember Greg Williams said, "Matty, you're going to break down." I go, "I don't break, I won't break down. I'll just get fitter." And I had a big pre-season. I had a couple of outstanding games in the pre-season. I was peaking too early in hindsight, and I was just doing all these dumb things. And then the foot started to get sore, and I started thinking, what's going on here? And I was assured it was okay, and then after the second round, we got a scan, and there was a big crack in the navicular bone. I thought,
is that like a stress fracture?
Yeah, and that bone, it's got a poor blood supply. It's like the scaphoid of the wrist. Right. So I put it in plaster, and I missed 16 weeks with that. Wow. And the club were good enough when I came back, they put me straight back in. So they helped me in that regard, which I really appreciate. I went straight back in against Hawthorn. Yeah. And I started, played some reasonable games towards the end of that year. Yep. But
So did you play the final series of 2001?
I played the final series.
So the first final we won against Adelaide elimination, and then we lost to Richmond.
We lost against Richmond. We were poor. Actually,
could have hit his knee in that game.
I was right there in front of that.
Really?
That game, that's probably another game I shouldn't have played. The week leading up, my housemate Simon Fletcher had the flu really badly in the week before, leading into the Adelaide game.
And he gave it to you?
He did, so he was really sick for the Adelaide game, and I'd never had the flu. Back then I've had the flu, you've got a cold, but the actual flu where you can't move your eyeballs in pain. So I was debilitated, and the night before I'm sweat just in a pool of, I really shouldn't have played, and I didn't have a great game. I probably did better than I thought under the circumstances, but we're just off and lost that, and then it was all downhill from 2002.
Well, there was some bad years going up. So
I mean, that was another year where, again, you'd have to say injuries really.
The injuries were ridiculous. They really were. I mean,
do you think Britain was unfairly treated in that respect? Because how did you find him as a coach, by the way?
But, very good tactically.
Everyone says that.
Yeah, he was. Sadly,
was he good with the players, as in one-on-one communication?
A lot of politics at Carlton around that time. Some big figures in the back of house, and I guess Wayne, he hadn't played in the AFL, so probably that
was always that thing. You know what I mean?
But as far as as a tactician, he was brilliant. The players loved him.
So the players you never detected any player say anything like, what would he know? He's never played the game, or
no.
You don't think
so? They had full respect for him.
Absolutely, he was very tactical, but that year the injuries were just ridiculous. If you go through it,
see, Brendan Bolton's had that issue, I suppose.
Yeah,
I guess again, you do wonder whether players fully take on everything he says, because there's always that lingering doubt. Does this bloke really know what he's talking about?
In my mind, a narrow-minded view. I mean, I played the level, but I'd be a terrible coach. I know I would be.
That's right.
So
I said that.
That's right. Jeez, man, you'd be awful. Right, I'll take it on board.
That was funny. I didn't mean it like that. Not necessarily just because you played it doesn't mean you have to be a good coach.
So you were there at the end of 2002 when we won our first wooden spoon. You'd only played, I think, 4 games that year, didn't you?
Yeah, and then I went and got surgery. So to this day, I've got a big screw in my right foot. So I missed the rest of the year. And then
no one's told you can take that out now?
No.
You've had it there for 21 years.
Yeah. And then, of course, Dennis Pagan came in.
Now, how did you find that scenario? I mean, it wasn't just a change of coach, it was change of president, change of everything, change of CEO. The whole club had been turned over.
Yeah, look, it was...
Lost all of those draft picks because of salary cap breaches.
It was a really difficult time, to be fair. And just the team, the position we're in, it was quite sad from where I'd seen Carlton to where it was.
Yeah.
And Dennis came in and totally remodelled the game plan.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, if you look back, probably didn't quite suit the group we had. We had Lance, who's a hit-up forward, not bomb on his head type thing, and we were playing this long ball movement style of game. Did
he want to use Favola in a similar way to Carey?
It worked for Brendan, but it was difficult for other players. I knew myself, I had a problem the pre-season. I thought I was done. I wouldn't be able to play football again, because I couldn't run. I was hobbling, and then managed to free it up and get moving again. I got into the side about round 3 or 4. Actually, it was Mick Martin's first game for Carlton too. And
really?
I played it. Yeah, tough.
That was a great move.
I played a tough game. I'm sorry.
What was he like as a bloke?
great bloke. Actually, I ran into Mick the other day. He lives
Really?
with me over in Williamstown, yeah. But I was in just for one game and then out again just as quickly. And my form in the reserves was quite average, actually. I just wasn't fit enough. And
Sorry, just want to interrupt you quickly. Corey McKernan came to Carlton in 2002.
yes,
Who was the number one ruckman?
it was to be me
it was still
with
you?
Corey as the forward and relieve in the
Yes.
ruck.
Because you got
was the
injured a lot.
plan.
He had to.
That was the plan because I missed the whole rest of the year. He went in the ruck. He ended up having a good year, winning the best of
He
Paris.
did. He won the best of Paris.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay, but you worked okay with him. It wasn't
definitely.
wasn't a clash
No,
situation.
I was looking forward to it because I'd played many years against him. I really enjoyed. I liked.
You played a grand final against him in '99.
Yeah. Actually, I've got a scar on my eyebrow, which is courtesy of him jumping and kneeing me in the eye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Corey, if you're watching.
He'll get you back, Corey. Don't worry, one day.
But look, it was a tough time, and Dennis and that year was another poor year, and I got back in after we were talking about Barry Mitchell. He encouraged me to get fitter, and I was doing a bit of extra running, and I got selected against Richmond mid-year, and I had one of. It was like I think I remember watching the game, and one of the commentators said Matty Allen's wound the clock back, which I sort of felt I did. I had a great game that day.
Yep.
And then I played a few more and then I went out the side again. But I think that was the game that saved my career and managed to get to another club because I knew my time at Carlton, sadly, had come to an end.
Right.
So you feel it?
I felt it.
Is that because the coach wasn't backing you, or because you felt like I just need a new environment?
I think it's that. And look, nothing personal. I didn't quite suit the type of game style he wanted.
And that's fair enough.
So I just wasn't quite the right
Corey
fit.
McKernan, as soon as Pagan arrived, he
left
wanted
it.
out
He
as quickly
left it.
as possible as well.
But so I think he had Barnaby French as the ruck that played that Bull King style and in close. And
he wanted out at the end of 2003. You left at the end of 2003.
Right.
You both did.
But I was grateful I managed to pull that one game out and have a great day that
you did.
I ended up meeting Kevin Sheedy at the end of the year.
How does that work? Did they contact you, or does your manager?
Yeah, they did. No, Adrian Dodoro, who's the long-term recruiting boss. Yeah, I met him and Kevin at the old Hilton. And Kevin was feeling me out, was I guess seeing if I've still got the drive. He was interested about that game.
How'd you find Kevin Sheedy?
Loved Kevin Sheedy. Yeah, very different the way his mind works in thought. And after that meeting, I think he was confident I could fill him.
He took on a few Carlton players, not just yourself. You got Justin Murphy across, and eventually Campo.
Well, that year, to be fair, they were in trouble with the salary cap, getting close to it, so they wanted to get a bit of support with senior players on not much salary. And I guess myself and Justin came pretty cheaply, given we hadn't really performed the previous few years.
Yeah, you couldn't command big money.
No.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
How is it? So you go to Essendon, and you did mention there that Anzac game.
Yep.
So there's probably a couple of games I mentioned. Anzac game playing, because as Carlton supporters we don't understand that. And also, did you end up playing against Carlton?
I did. Yeah, I had one game against Carlton, which was interesting experience at the MCG.
How's that?
Yeah, it was tough. In some ways.
You were a famous jumper at Essendon for ruckman. 27.
I did 27. Yes, I went from 24 to 27.
Simon Madden.
Steve
Alessio.
Yeah, and I got to know all those guys, and it was a bit of a mixed feeling playing against Carlton, but. Look, I was grateful to get another opportunity, to be fair. And that year I played 20 games in the seniors. Actually, I played in Essendon's last
one of your better years, actually, in terms of the amount of games that you played.
Yeah, I managed to keep myself together, and I had a pretty reasonable year. And actually, I played in Essendon's last winning final in 2004.
Wow. Is that right?
Who would have thought that?
There you go.
Yeah.
We're waiting and hoping that it's going to be a 20-year wait for
That is unreal. That was the difference, you.
Pardon?
That was the difference, them winning that final, you.
Yeah, we'll take that.
Had to bring some Carlton flavour to it.
But you know when you play, do you really want to beat Carlton that day? Like, is there...
Yeah.
Is there any sense of loyalty to the opponent that day or not?
Not when you're, that's your career. When
you're at Essendon,
my profession, and you want to perform.
Did you? I can't remember. I either can't remember. Did we win or did Essendon win? Did Carlton win? What happened that day?
I think Essendon won. I'm pretty sure Essendon won the game. Yeah, from memory.
Yeah.
We'd have to look that up.
Yeah,
in the years 2003, 4, 5, it's probably a good chance.
Yeah, it's a good chance that we didn't win that game.
Because if you're making finals and we're down the bottom of the ladder.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Although there were a lot of games between the two sides over the years where it didn't really matter who was where on the ladder. It was a great competitive game.
Yeah. So look, I was grateful. I had a really fun time there, and again, lucky to go to a club like that and play in big fixtures.
Of course, you went to another big club. What about the Anzac Day?
Huge.
What's that like?
Huge.
Yeah.
And look, Kevin Sheedy drove all the...
Amazing what he did.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And the lead up in the week,
you
know, just instilling in the boys what the day signifies with the vision, and everyone wants to get up for Anzac Day, you know, all of a sudden. And funnily enough, I got a corky the week before in my calf, and I did a fitness test the day of that game. And I thought, geez, I got through and I played.
And you really wanted to play?
Play all right?
Yeah.
I played all right, I only played about a half. A lot of games that year I shared with David Hill, but I played against Josh Fraser. Played all right, and we won. James Hurd won the medal. But it's very different, like you're warming up in the car park because all the parachuters and all. It was just an amazing game to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I must say, as a neutral supporter, I've been to a few Anzac Day clashes, and it really is a special day. From the point of view of celebrating Anzac Day and the pre-game routine that they do with the last post and all of that, it's pretty chilling almost. It was. The silence over the MCG with 100,000 people there.
Yeah, so look, that was a great experience, and I enjoyed my first year. Going into the next year, I guess I thought there were some young ruckmen coming through, and my body started to get sore again. So I just turned 30, and my knee, I had a knee problem. So I played round 1, and then my knee issue resurfaced. Went back to reserves, tried to come back again. In the end, I got surgery on the knee and ended up finishing at the end of that year. Yeah. But really, really loved the couple of years I had there.
Isn't that a shame? I mean, you talked about just turning 30. I mean, we've just mentioned earlier that, you know, this is when most ruckmen come into their prime.
Yeah.
You were cut short by injury.
I think, and look, it was a lot of things. I've had injuries all the way through.
Yeah.
I've had 14 surgeries now. I've got no posterior cruciates in either knee.
Yeah.
The big one was the foot, though. Once that happened, sort of the style I used to play, I couldn't do anymore.
Yeah. You remember your last game ever for over? You remember it?
Yeah.
How did
against Melbourne?
Did you know it was your last game at the time?
No,
did you
not
suspect
at the time.
It would be?
No, not at the time. No.
Yeah.
It can come to an abrupt end, can't it?
Not everyone gets
nice
the
to go out on
tale.
your own terms.
That's
and
right.
Plan it and have a send-off game and all that, but not too many players get it.
No. Funnily enough, we talk about Anzac Day, but the following year, so when I was injured, my daughter was just about to, my first child was just about to be born that day, but she came early the next morning.
Wow.
So I'm sort of half watching the Anzac Day game.
All right,
this
is a great question here.
Yeah.
What do you do on grand final? Your wife's about to have
the Anzac Day game.
Well, Anzac, but even grand final.
So hypothetically,
let's say it's grand final.
Oh, that's a tough one.
He's throwing a hypothetical at you. It's grand final week. Your wife's
I know what I would do.
Play?
I'm playing the game, mate. I'm telling you, mate. Like, I don't know, but
look, if it's a grand final, I think the family and everyone would be behind. They'd understand that game.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you'd get through.
Yeah.
And any home and away game you'd probably miss.
Then a home and a go, and I can understand. But that grand final, and some people say, oh, you know, no, I'd be there, and I'm going.
What if it's a prelim final?
Yeah, no, I think
chance to get into a grand
I think you
final.
have to play, and I think the family would all want you to.
Yeah. You'd be hoping that day.
Yeah.
You'd be have it early, man. You better drop that baby. I don't want to be put in a position. That's a unique position to be in. Yeah.
Well, I guess Essendon gave you an opportunity to extend your career for a few more years, because otherwise it would have finished up pretty early at 28 or 20 years of age at Carlton.
Yeah, and so, you know, to play 140 at Carlton when I thought I'd play but then to get over the 150 mark, and I played a good game in my 150th, and Essendon made a real fuss and did a nice thing with the banner, so that's a nice memory.
Yeah.
You know, sad in some ways I'm not in the 200 club. I thought I was probably the career I had, I was good enough to play a couple hundred games.
Yeah.
But to still play 160 odd and do the things I did, I guess I'm pretty proud of that.
You had a good career, man, and we loved you. And even when you went to even when you went to Essendon, I didn't really hate you.
Well, I think most people are understanding. There's those supporters that think you're a traitor, but my line was I needed a job.
100%.
And I got traded there. Else
They gave you another opportunity.
there wasn't a position.
Look, there's a difference between a player like, there's a couple I won't mention that are kind of left the club because they want a better opportunity and they kind of left it.
Better money.
And players that like, well, I'm not going to get a game and an opportunity. And I think we understand that as supporters.
Yeah, and then look, after Essendon, I moved to Bendigo and I ran the Bendigo Bombers, their VFL team. So, you know, I got that opportunity to do that and get into the business world, and I was still connected to Essendon for those 2 years. Working pretty closely with them and spending a lot of time with Essendon. And you know, I've got a lot of great mates from Essendon still. I'm going to a function with Sean Wellman and Damien Peverill on Friday, and these are mates. And Sean Wellman does my finance stuff. So, you know, it's
you do make contacts and connections.
The contacts and the friends you make along the way.
It's about relationships, about mates.
So,
and that's why like I think about it. That's, you know, when you're playing footy, it's about your mates. It's about the bloke next to you, you know. And I noticed with these ex-players, man, they always talk about
so that was
some players have a better relationship with opposition players than they do with their own teammates.
Well, there's that too.
I mean, you're not always going to get along with every single player you play with, eh?
That's right. But it's great memories when I look back. My kids get a real kick out of it that I played.
Of course.
You know, my son's starting to show a lot of abilities.
Is he?
Down at the Sandringham Dragons. So he's 6'3" at 16, and he
so
can
maybe
run.
a bit of a father-son.
Well, look, he's hopeful of maybe to play.
How old is he now?
He's 16.
What's his name?
Harvey Allan.
Harvey Allan.
Did you hear that?
Keep that name.
Well, a few years we got the camper rallies. Alan, there's a couple of others that have been playing well.
But look, you need a bit of luck as well. But he's showing some great signs and really loving it. And my youngest daughter's playing.
Do your kids, who do they follow?
They're all Carlton, so I've got 3, and actually my eldest daughter Amy's was texting me saying, can she use the MCC to get in this game Friday night? She's worried, but I think she's going to be okay. She's happy.
I like it.
So can we safely say your heart's still with Carlton?
Definitely, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of fond memories and a lot of great friends still all connected. And I went to David Parkin's tribute lunch a few weeks ago, and that was really nice.
It was a good day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And No, I was just going to say, just while we're there, just to finish this kind of off, is you've been watching the Blues.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Wow, look, if you had told me 6 weeks ago what would have happened here, I would have said you're kidding. Because I went to a few early games, and I thought it was quite difficult to watch.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Just the unpredictability of the ball movement. But now, like, the energy's up. You know, they seem to really be gelling, and that can happen. You know, Bossie's a new coach. You know, he's been pretty consistent. You got to admire. You know, we're putting patterns in place. It's not going to come overnight.
Yeah. He's been steadfast. He hasn't moved off his.
That's right. But look, now they're in a position. It wouldn't surprise if they roll Collingwood. They're in that type of form. So, albeit they've come off West Coast, which is unfortunate where they're at.
Also got a few injuries going into this game. So
I think, like I've been saying this, I've got this quiet confidence about the side. I always say whatever supporters feel, I feel like it's what the club feels or what the players feel, and I'm feeling this quiet. I'm not even worried that a couple of players are injured. I'm thinking like the system seems to be working, and if they just stick to it, maybe
well, that's where the game's changed so much. They talk system, you know. It's designed for a player takes in and you play the role to the system, whereas when I played in the 90s, the star players out and you think the whole team's going to fall apart. So, it's good to watch.
All right, so it's good. So
can I ask you?
We're going to win.
I love it.
Well, just before we get off the current team, there's a player that's playing for us who, in a lot of ways, is similar to you because he's a left footer and he's an up and coming ruckman, and there's a lot of talk about whether he's going to stay or whether he's going to leave, and it's Tom De Conning. What's your opinion of him and how he plays, and where do you see the future with him if there is one?
I wouldn't have minded his leap at the footy and the way he can mark the ball with his leap.
Did you ever take marks like that?
I couldn't jump that much. But look, he's a talent. It's difficult to fit every player in.
Looking at him and how he plays, is there anything that you really like, and is there anything that troubles you about the way he plays?
No. Look, I love his leap is quite extraordinary. He is a natural ruckman, and I know they've tried to play him more as a forward. He's crying out to play bulk minutes on the ball, and that sort of hasn't happened. So ruckman want to play on the ball, and you know, I'm sure if he got continuity and consistency of many games, he'd be a great ruckman. But it's difficult piece with the salary
He's still
cap.
about
I mean, how you fit him all
I think he's still 24, maybe 25.
So he's young. I think he. Yeah, would he
I
be
don't even know if he's even 25 yet.
Yeah. So
something like that.
It's just difficult fitting all these guys in. That becomes the juggling piece. But hopefully,
if you were the Carlton ruck coach, would you have Pitnet? Would you have the Conning? Would you have?
What
anyone
would be
else?
the ruck setup?
Look,
and by the way, you might want to talk to Matty Cruiser and say, hey, whenever you're ready to relinquish the role, I'll take it over.
That's it. Yeah, that's right. Oh, look. They both offer different things. I do understand Pitnet is a real competitor, so it is good.
Big,
you crash in. I mean, and that's great for the.
Yeah.
Sorry,
no, that's all right.
That's all right.
That's probably the alarm saying it's time to finish the interview.
Apologies, guys.
We're not far off.
Apologies.
That's all right.
Look, a mixture of both if they can do it. I don't really know the answer, but
do you like this? Do you like that we've got TDK and the Sauce kind of? I know Sauce is not the real, but he's kind of filling in that role.
Yeah, he does, and sadly he's hurt his knee because he's not really a ruckman.
But Lewis Young often sort of pinch hits in the ruck.
But Jack,
it's kind of a different kind of
it is.
Dynamic, and I don't think clubs know how to deal with it.
Yeah. What's funny, I had a better record as a player against the established name type ruckman in the league, but the lesser lights you expected to dominate them. Sometimes I wouldn't play well because you're a bit confused on how to go about it.
Yeah, 100%. It's like cricket, like when you're getting those ones who just lob the ball.
That's
right. Tend to go out to them.
That's right. Yeah. And look, Jack's such a competitor.
He's
great in the team in most positions. The pressure he puts on, and for him to give away often 6 or 8 inches and compete is
pretty good. Yeah.
One last question for you: did you ever take on a role as ruck coach?
No,
anywhere?
I didn't.
Even at lower levels?
No, I didn't. Well, when I was doing the Bendigo Bombers job, I was pretty busy with all the admin. I'd help out a little bit. Matty Knights was up there.
What does it take to be a ruck coach? What would be Matthew Cruiser be doing at Carlton now to help our ruckman? And what grounding should he have had before he got that role? I mean, because he went straight from player to coach.
And he was a great ruckman in his own right. But you're watching a lot of vision with them. You're coming up with a plan how to beat, the ruckman of the week.
Right.
Yeah.
Who was your ruck coach when you were playing? Do you remember?
I had Justin early. I've had a couple. Sam Newman for a little bit actually.
Okay. Oh, was he good?
Simon Madden. Yeah. You pick up tips from.
And was that at Carlton? Was it?
Carlton. Sam came down, and even Simon Madden was at Carlton.
Really?
In the mid-90s for a bit.
Madden.
Yeah. And then there were a few years there where we didn't have anyone, and then we.
I thought you were saying Simon Madden because you went to Essendon, but
no. And then Alex Sashenko came down for a bit, Carlton. So picked up a bit from each of them.
And that's what you do. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, so it's mainly going through vision. That's what a ruck coach does.
A lot of it, yeah. And
it's
then practical, just jumping on the bag and different
put your body this way, that way.
Yeah, all this sort of stuff.
Okay, it's interesting. Yeah. Well, Matty.
Great,
mate,
guys.
you played 140 terrific games for the club.
Thank you, Vince.
I think you kicked 72 goals.
Yeah.
For us, anyway. I think you played 20 for Essendon. Might have kicked the goal or two there.
Yeah.
But we remember you very, very fondly. It was great, a great time, especially in those 90s and those late 90s and 99. What a great year it was to be celebrated forever.
Great.
Player number 1,000. You've done it proud.
Thank you.
Thanks very much
for
joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I appreciate it.
Thank you. All of that, all Australian, Victorian representative, best and fairest at Carlton. You got one extra thing you can put on your resume now.
You're a legend of the jumper punch.
Oh, beautiful.
Thanks, guys.
Let's give it a quick 3, 2, 1. Go Blues. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Go Blues.
Dead and buried deep within a cemetery. I will fight, never weary. I wanna be legendary. Till I'm dead and buried deep within a cemetery. I will fight, never weary. I wanna be legendary.
I'll be last place, that's alright. I don't work at a fast pace, I'm a steady horse creeping up straight past it. And once I pass you, no one's getting past me. I see people hit walls and they stop there. I don't get that mind, man, it sounds